So in our last video, we started building this journal. We were able to identify some everyday items you can find in your home to use as your journal. And we started by identifying old clothes, denim, which is our journal cover. Then we also spoke about scrap fabrics, which is also the lining for our journal cover. I have more scrap fabric, which is my tie rope. And we spoke about A4 envelopes. Now my pages are made from A4 envelopes, and I just glued things down. A4 papers and how versatile they are, and as you can see, they form most of my signatures. Today we shall continue from where we stopped. Now the first one for today is empty boxes. So this is an empty Coca-Cola box. It doesn't have to be Coke, it could be empty box of anything versatile. They could be used to make cards, they could be used to make journal covers, they could be used to make pockets, and it could also be cut off and stenciled down as, you know, one of those. For example, this small bit here can be used for a journal cover. You can also tear into your cardboard box to get this beautiful design. Now you can use this to design your papers. You can put your paint on this and stamp on your papers to get you that fine lines. Also, you can use this to decorate your junk journal. You can have this as part of the front cover. That's another tiny one. This could be used to make a tiny journal. I will use this bit as my journal spine. We're just going to cut this bit down. Thinking about boxes, we've got more boxes to cover. So I have this small box which I use for my candle business. I have spare ones. So this would absolutely be cut off to make a window. This would make one of the pages on my journal. And the small bits can also be cut off to decorate my edges, to decorate my pages, or even to cut out shapes. I have another box which I use for my soap business, and I don't need to open it, but this is also versatile. Empty fairy box, and here can be used for your journal cover. Like, it is really sturdy. And if you don't have a stencil or the machine that cuts papers like me, you can use things like this. So if you're looking for a small cycle, you can cut around this cycle to give you what you're looking for. So the other side can also be used as a journal cover, and this side as well. They are pretty much, they're very sturdy. Now I've got more boxes. This is, I think, body care box, and right now I use them to store some of my small cards. Whenever I'm looking for small cards to use readily available, I just go in here to look for what I need. Now here are some stickers. Someone got them from me. They were a gift. Thank you so much, Donald. I've got another box over here, and I also use them for storing things. So you can create beautiful cases for your junk journal from these boxes. So you can decorate if you like. I also have another big shoe box, and again, these are really handy for your junk journaling. I'm not going to waste the cover. If not, it will be a perfect book cover. I've not seen a big paper so light yet as sturdy as this one. But I'm not going to be using it for our journal today. I'm just using it to store the things I always use every day. So in this box, this junk box, I have things I use. What can you spot? I have some invincible tape, some perforator, my calculator, those badges I'm going to put in our today's journal. I'm going to fit them somewhere. Also, I've got some acrylic. Let's quickly consider A4 papers. I love A4 papers because they are so versatile. This is one of my digital products from a few years ago. I'm going to be using it for collage on one of the papers. So your A4 papers are your normal printing papers. So this one is, I'm trying to see the weight, is usually 70 to 100 GSM. So this looks like 70 GSM. It is pretty much light. So your normal photocopy papers, let's look at what we can use them for. My A4 papers are mostly folded and added into my journal. For example, this is a red A4 paper. That's another A4 paper and A4 papers of my A4 papers. Now this is a plain A4 paper I put in here, and the pink one is also another A4 paper. This is from an old children book and the size is A4, so I folded it into this journal and I fit it in here. Paper. So that's another A4 paper. Dyed my photocopy papers. These ones are my coffee dyed papers, and I'll show you what it looks. This is my coffee dyed paper, and we shall be using them in today's journal. Another coffee dyed paper, and I've got, that's a turmeric dyed paper. That's a carrot and cinnamon dyed paper. So this is a bit textured from the cinnamon. It looks dirty, but that's our carrot dyed paper. Cinnamon dyed. So here are my tea dyed papers. As we have spoken about A4 papers, let's quickly consider A4 cards. These are my A4 cards. I don't know what this is called, maybe PVC, but I used to sell handmade journals, so I used this as part of my journal. Now let's look at the colored A4 cards. So this is one-sided craft card. I'll be using them for pockets, for covers, for my signature, for cutouts, for adding colors to my journal. So I'll be using one or two of these very colorful ones, and I love them absolutely. And that's also one-sided. Wrapping papers. Any wrapping papers you have at all would suffice. You can use your wrapping papers to adorn your pages. You can use your wrapping papers as pockets, depending on the texture of the wrapping paper. Like, I already see me using this in my journal. Now this is also from last Christmas, and it's a 10 meters wrap roll, and I bought this from Next. I love the tartan print or pattern on it, that's why I bought it. So this was from 2 Christmases ago, but I never got around to use them, so they are going to be used in our today's junk journal. We also got those kind. You could use them to beautify your pages, you could use them as cutouts, you could use them, you know. In fact, they said, please recycle me. That's why I'm going to recycle you. Imagine that covering one of our pages, which we're going to try in the next few minutes. If you want your collage to work, don't forget your edges. Let's try this over here. on my cover. Now we are moving on to buttons. So I have just a few to show you, but buttons are definitely going to be a huge part of this journal. I don't know if my buttons are going to be on the front pages or somewhere on one of my signatures. I'm still thinking about it, and I'm going to make up my mind on what to do with my buttons. Are going to fit by the edge of my journal cover, just like that. So there you go. You could also use smaller buttons, maybe to decorate your pages and all. So I don't have much to say about this because I have not used it. But remember, we are building this journal and we're going to be using these buttons on this journal cover. Now let's quickly consider tapes. So it doesn't matter what kind of tape you have at home. Tapes are really versatile for junk journaling. Now you can use a tape to do the hinge binding. So you can do a junk journal from start to finish using just tapes. Now some of the popular ones these days are washi tapes. So I don't have the chunky washi tapes because I don't use a lot of them. I'm just starting to explore them and I kind of like using them. So I'm going to be ordering some more washi tapes on Temu. So these are my washi tapes, and over here I've got just normal sailor tape, or this one says pack tape, this one says office tape. So if you have any of these, they are so handy. You can bind your journal with them. You can create your transparent stickers with them. I've got my invincible tape. Now it's not completely invincible, but I kind of like the look. I used it to make a journal, and the journal was quite sturdy. It's my double-sided tape. A lot of times when I'm making my journal cover and I think the glue is not going to dry quick, I put this in to secure. Also, when I'm doing the hinge binding or creating an envelope journal, I also use the double-sided tape. Next, we want to look at our old magazines. If you have old magazines at home, you can absolutely use them for your junk journaling. You can cut out the pages that you like. You can use them for collage. You can turn them into 4 rice papers and use them as pockets. So flip through your favorite old magazines, and you can use pictures like this to create your own postcards. This border or this edge can also be used to decorate your journal page. I wonder why I have not really looked at this, but I am loving these pictures right now. I'm going to be cutting that off and I'll be using them in our journal for today. Look at those borders. This could just be cut off and glued to your own book borders. All these can be cut out for your journal pages. I'm going to be cutting the edge of this magazine to add to my own journal edges because they are beautiful and I won't want to see them go to a bit. You can cut a strip. I might just cut into the patterns on the clothes without the human beings, just the patterns. I like some of the patterns I see on the clothes, like this one. I got this in 2022 and I think its end is around the corner, so I don't really need the faces. I'm just going to cut the bits I need and use them for my collage. There's quite a number of animal prints today, which I am excited about. Let's quickly consider old newspapers. If you have old newspapers at home, you can definitely use them for your junk journals. Now, this is a quick example. I took 2 old newspapers. I put a cardstock in the middle, glued them down, and I got this. So I created a little signature cover for this set of signatures that will be going into our journal from the magazine. Let's take it out. The next one we want to consider is wool or yarn. So if you have spare wool or yarn just lying about in the house, then this is your sign. You can use them for junk journals. Now, wool and yarns are really versatile because you could do a plethora of things with them. The first one being that you could actually knit a junk journal cover. This is a small journal that I am making at the moment, and this is the cover that I have knitted for the junk journal. So you can use this for your covers. Now you can also use this to bind or to sew your books. I used a very thin thread to sew this, and it was ripping my papers apart. I've noticed that with the wool, it seldom or rarely rips your paper. So you can use wool to sew your journals, like sew the pages together. So by the time we're done with this series, I'm sure we would have built our journal, and I will be doing everything that I said we can be using these things for. For example, you can make some ruffles or just glue down this to the edge of your page, the edges, and we can use them to make patterns on our papers. So we are still building our journal, and so far we have listed 15 things that we can use in creating our junk journals. And the first one we looked at was the journal cover, which is this. Now we also spoke about envelopes, A4 envelopes. So I have done some collage. I put down some gift wrapping sheets or some Christmas gift wrappers down on it to make my collage. So that is one use of the envelopes. And this beautiful paper, this beautiful floral pattern, I got it from a book. So I decided to glue it down and also sew it down. So I sewed it here and here. So I also went on to put some upside down Peaky Blinders page here. Even though it was a mistake, it's upside down, but that's fine. That would work. It's a junk journal. And on this side, I also have something from, I think, Peaky Binder book as well. And I've got this very simple page. So the next one, I already started doing this collage a while ago. If this is how it's going to be, this set of signatures are going into that pocket. We've not sewed it down. We're just looking at what our journal might look like at the end. We're also going to be binding the signatures in a moment. That brings us to the next item we want to talk about: sewing needles. Yes, if you don't have bookmaking kits or book sewing kits yet, you can totally utilize large sized needles you have at home. Now this is not too sharp, it is relatively blunt, but it is hard and sturdy, so I can first punch holes into my signatures or into any book before I sew. So we're going to demonstrate that. So let's look for the needle, and we're just going to make holes right in the middle. I made a hole. I'm just going to make another hole right here. Okay. Go on to make a third hole somewhere here. I don't really measure, but you can measure if you like. And that's our third hole in. My needle, my threaded needle, and start my sewing. I'm going to do into this one first. Your needles will go in easily or in an easy manner. Pardon my. That's one set of signatures ready for our journal. We shall still be decorating our journal when we finish. And that's what our binding looks like at the moment. I'm excited. Here somewhere. So let's quickly sew another pocket on this page. Remember, we're working with some mini notebooks that will be fitting in different parts of this journal. So we're still making our signatures, and I'm going to fold this down a bit. Now we have our signatures. Fold them in halves. Again, just like we did earlier, we're going to first punch our holes first before we even attempt to sew. So just make sure your pages are where you want them to be. Make sure they are the same before you even start sewing. So I'm going to make one hole right here in the middle, just so it's easier to sew, especially if you don't have sewing tools or kit. I'm going to puncture another hole over here. Now I have two holes. Hold it and make sure it's not moving. And I'm going to puncture my third hole over here. So I have 3 holes in total, and I'm going to sew through my holes now. So the first one will go in, I'll put it through the middle hole, come out at the other place. Now I'm going to put it through this hole, okay, and through the same hole again. And now we're going into this hole. Okay, our holes are not quite straight anymore. Now I'm going to go in through this hole again, through this one again, in, through this one, out, now through the top of it again, in. So I think I could go one more time. A tie. And tie. So that's the front. First page, second page, third page. So we have these notebooks to go in this pocket. So remember, we're still going to reinforce the pocket in our third and final video. So far so good. This is our journal cover at the moment. I lost my machine needle. I'll have to just line my denim. So that's that for today. We're just going to tie this baby up, and but right now I won't fault it. I won't change anything about it. I am loving it already. Thank you.